Hello, everyone. Welcome. For everybody that's still coming in, please just go ahead and find your seats whenever you're able to make it up to your seats. And for everybody watching online, welcome to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Certification course. Now, this program is actually intended to not only teach you what the lessons say, but also to teach you how the Peaceful Solution was created and the expectations on the delivery of this program in itself. And it's very important that all things are done according to how the author, Yisrael Hawkins, set in his mind, along with 50 teachers over 25 years ago, to get these things put into action so people could see that there is a way to make a difference in society. Now, for those of you that are watching online, if you do not have a book, if you'll please see down in the news feed, you can download a free book, the Character Education Program. It's the Character Unit. Now, this book is also available in Spanish and French upon request. Please, I would like to inform everyone, if you have any questions, please feel free to either email your questions to www.peacefulsolution.org, and you can find that in the About section on our Facebook page, or you can call our 1-800 number at 1-888-613-9494, and we'll be more than glad to help you. You can also just send your questions straight to the official Peaceful Solution Facebook page, and we have people standing by that are more than willing and ready to help you answer your questions and help you get started in your areas with teaching the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Now, a little bit about the program itself. You'll also find in the news feed, you can download the free overview of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Now, that is available in English and Spanish, where you can download the overview, and it will give you the entire curricula of the Peaceful Solution, along with a little bit of information about each book. Since we have a vast amount of program that takes place, the author and the group of teachers and parents that put this program together shared no expense. They exhausted every area they could find to where we could improve life from as young as a pre-kindergartner all the way up into the parenting age, a workplace manual, a prison manual, and to carry us all the way through school, from kindergarten all the way through the 12th grade. And this was exhausted so every area could be found, and nationality plays no part in this. And as we go forth into the introductory of the book, because we want to introduce you to what exactly we will be teaching, you'll find out that no matter what race, no matter what religion, no matter wealth or society status that you may have, no matter what country you may be a citizen of, all of those things are irrelevant when it comes to teaching positive character education and making our society a much better place. Now, it's very important because most people, when they hear us say that we can make a difference on a global scale, we can make the world a better place, most people will look and say, there's just no way. It's too bad. There's no way that we can make a difference. Well, for one, you have to remember it didn't get this way by itself. It actually took effort, or the lack thereof, of educating in morality. Many things have deterred the minds of many people to worry more about wealth or social status or just taking advantage of their fellow man. And that has superseded the ability to make positive, sound decisions in our society today. And just think for a moment, if Henry Ford would have looked out and thought, there's no gas stations, there's no use to make a car, where would we be today? But he didn't. He was a visionary, and that's just one example of a visionary that seen his vision through, and now everyone has a car. Almost everywhere you go, you will see cars. And it takes fuel to put in those cars. So think of all of the businesses that had to be created, and he actually believed in that to see this come about. Well, the author of The Peaceful Solution has that same vision, but his vision is morality. Positive character education being taught to every man, woman, and child, to every individual on the face of this earth. So life could be a better way of living. There could be a better way of living for everyone. Sometimes where we live determines the value of life in society. If you come from America, you have a higher status than if you come from what they call a third world country. But the author of The Peaceful Solution does not see it that way. All life has value, and all life has equal value. Everyone's life is important. And it's important that we train, and that's what this program is for, that we train to be able to make sound decisions, to be a benefit to people we've never met, and to know that the actions that we take on an everyday basis affect everyone. And it's important that we realize that. Now, I want to give you a formula, and I want you to write this down. It's a formula for success. It's a formula that's been tried and tested, and if you'll take this formula, and I'm not saying it's easy, it's something that we all have to practice every day, many times in a day. But if this formula is put to practice in our lives, this formula will bring forth success. Now, I want to show you a picture right here really quickly. It's a picture that says thoughts, feelings, actions, and then, of course, we have rewards or consequences. Well, the Peaceful Solution wants you to consider that every action begins with a thought. Every action begins with a thought. Now, you can try that and test it. Do something without thinking about it. And if you can do that, you've succeeded at being the first human being that was able to do something without thinking about it. Just for the fact that you're considered doing it, you have to think about it. Well, consider every thought, whether positive or negative, they lead to feelings or emotions. Now, that can lead to feelings of joy, feelings of resentment, feelings of depression, sadness. Well, whatever those thoughts and however we fuel those thoughts, they're going to lead to those feelings. And in return, we're going to take action. We're going to make decisions. We're going to say something, which is an action in itself, according to what our thoughts played into our feelings. So what the Peaceful Solution and the author Yisrael Hawkins, and you'll see this is where he starts out with this unit of the Character Education Program. He starts out with telling us if we can teach society to control their thoughts, to make everything a positive thought. And when I say positive, that means to learn how to think about doing things that brings no harm to yourself, someone else, or the environment around you. That affects everyone and everybody. If we can bring those thoughts into subjection and create positive thoughts, then we can create feelings that will help these actions become a more benefit, a more tangible kind of substance for society, something the society can easily digest on a readily basis. Now, that doesn't mean that these thoughts will always make the feelings joyful. There may be some sad thoughts. There may be some bad thoughts. But if you can control your thoughts and remind yourself of the outcome or the rewards or consequences, it's a proven fact that we can make society a better place. And we're going to start today in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program unit known as the Character Unit. Now, the Character Unit is the first of 5 units of our junior high program series. Now, this unit was originally written for 11 to 13-year-olds, but keep in mind, at what age are you too old to learn? And this unit has been proven for the last 20 years to be effective for adults and for youth on the same level. Most problems we find in our lives today that affect us in our lives today started or took place in our youth, with the things that were missing, with the things that were not said, were the things that we were never given to make sound decisions. And it's something that we need to remember when dealing with other people. We went to school to learn how to read and to learn how to write, took science, you even learned how to drive a car. But you're always expected. Society expects you to make the right choice without even teaching you how. Well, that's one of the failures that the author of the Peaceful Solution noticed, that we need to be teaching people how to make sound decisions, create a curricula where it's a very easily learned thing, and show them with practice, these things can become a habit. And they can become a part of everyone's life. But like I said, it's not easy, but it's something that can be accomplished. If you'll turn over into your character unit, the junior high series, we're going to start with the preface, and it's on Roman numeral page XV or 15. It's the preface, and this is the influence from the teacher, the author Yisrael Hawkins. And I want you to notice the very first word he uses. Thinking, a thought, thinking back. He says, thinking back on my early school years, I remember many of the things taught by my teachers that were not part of the regular curriculum. Now, I want you to remember the author of The Peaceful Solution, when he wrote this, was in his late 60s. And he's thinking back to his early school years. Think of a power of a thought where you have someone thinking about what they learned when they were 5, 6, 7, when they were very young people. And here they're in their late 60s, and they're still finding value in what they were taught when they were very young. Now, this has a twofold meaning also. Because what occurs if we're teaching people negative things when they're 5 and 6 years old? If we're doing negative things in front of them? If we put negative examples in front of them? That's the example, and those are the things that the author of The Peaceful Solution is saying we can make a difference if we could just eliminate this negative and put positive into the mind of our youth. You could change a generation very quickly. But he goes on to say, it was those teachings that influenced my thinking. Notice it persuaded him to make a choice. And we'll get into what influences truly are and how they affect us later on in the unit. He says, many of them still guide my actions today. Think of that. Once again, 5 and 6 years old, he learned these things, and they still guide his actions even today. Continuing on, he says, I remember very early in my childhood, even before my school years, things my parents taught me that actually guided my interaction with others. One statement that I heard more than once from my father in the face of some frustrating event was, son, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Now, think about that statement, and then think about what do we see in society. What did you learn when you were in school? If somebody punched you, what were you told to do? Most people would say, oh, punch them back. But did that solve any problems? Did that bring an answer to any situations that were going off in the negative way? If I punch you and you punch me back, does that make us better friends? No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Now, that's on a level of young children, but we can see this on a level in society between nations even, where one nation attacks another nation, and the need or the feel to fight back sets in. And these are things that where we've taken off in a negative way, where society has slipped, and we see where today, even today, you can go on the internet and you can read of threats of nuclear war. And this is on a daily basis now. But from a young age, this was put into his mind. Son, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And that's whether you're pushed or shoved or someone calls you a name. But it also means that, let's say we've done something bad. We've said something bad. We did something wrong. And an authority comes to us. And they ask us, did you do this? Do you know anything about it? Well, lying is also another wrong. And those 2 wrongs will never make a right. So it's more than just retaliation of a fist. It can also be the lack of taking responsibility for something we've done. It could be done through lying, through hiding something we broke. That's another wrong. So you can put this into play in many aspects of life. But just consider, if you ever do something wrong, no matter what it is, the only way you can start fixing it is to immediately consider what it takes to fix the situation that you've broken. Hiding it, lying about it, running from it will never fix the situation. Finding an authority figure, get a guidance counselor, find someone trusted you can talk to. For the author here, it was his father. And that helped him to learn how to fix situations. Now he goes on to say, had my father's words not been mentioned in my hearing, but other more damaging words such as get even or fight back, I'll never forgive you for that. I'll get you for that. I might have treated others differently. You know, and those few words went a long way in his life. Those few words. And like he says, if he would have been taught get even, it would have been a very different atmosphere. In fact, we would not have had this curricula that is currently taught in 26 different countries with millions of people learning. We would have never had this tool right here. He goes on to say, in my lifetime, I have seen, he's witnessed, Many people retaliate, children, adults, and nations. However, I've never seen peace brought by someone doing wrong to another after that person did wrong to them. And think about it in your life. Have you ever had a situation where you've done someone wrong or someone did something wrong to you and retaliation took place? Can you think of a situation where it was resolved through retaliation, through fits of anger? And then think about, have you ever been in a situation to where someone did something wrong and you chose, as we call the road less traveled, you chose a different path. Instead of retaliation, you chose a peaceful manner on how to deal with it. Think about which one had the better outcome, because that's what the author's trying to put into our minds. Even though the first thing in your mind may be to retaliate, that's not the most beneficial. Now, this is why it's so important for us as we're learning to be teachers. And if you're a parent, you don't have to go apply for a teaching job. You're a teacher. If you're a student, well, you're a teacher also. Well, how am I a teacher? Well, when you're in a classroom, how you conduct yourself and the things you do influence the students around you. If you're a worker, whether you own a business, you're a supervisor, or you're an employee, you're a teacher. The way you conduct yourself influences people around you. And we're not speaking about, well, I'm an employee and I do electrical. How do I teach someone electrical? I just started. Remember, we're talking about character, the way we conduct ourselves, the things we say, and how we say them. Whether we're honest or whether we're dishonest, whether we're reliable or whether we're not very responsible at all. Those are the things that we're teaching each other on a daily basis. And he goes on to say here that teachers greatly influence our future leaders. Now, our future leaders are the ones that are watching us. Youth are always watching adults to see what they do and how they do it. And then they try to emulate what they see. Whether they watch a movie with karate fighting and they try to throw kicks, or whether they see a problem arise and they see their father, their mother, their older brother, their older sister, an aunt, an uncle, they see them maybe handle the situation in a way that calms it down, gives them a great example on how a situation can be dealt with. That's very differently than seeing two people get into an argument and then the fight breaks out to the front yard and the child's there to watch the whole thing. That puts in the mind of a child, that's the way to deal with a problem. Well, that's teaching a child that two wrongs will make a right, but that never will add up. And think about that. Really consider where you've ever had two wrongs make a right in your lifetime. You'll never see it. It doesn't take place. The author goes on to say, this means teachers have a major impact on the outcome of the world's future, our future leaders. Just a few words placed in a person's mind at the proper time can actually guide that person's thinking for the rest of his or her life. And that's the power of teaching. And write this down for your notes, because we'll get into this much later in this, not in this unit, but continuing units. Knowledge is power. It's very important to remember that. Knowledge is power. Now, I don't mean that gives you the power to lift up cars and throw them across the parking lot. Doesn't mean you have the power to fly. It means you have the power to bring peace to any situation once you know how. Once we learn how, then we have this power, this ability. Now, the interesting part is, once you have this knowledge, it's something that always has to be practiced. It's not something you can do and you've completed it and you're done. It's throughout the rest of our lives. No matter how long that may be, it's something that has to be practiced continually. But that's the power of teaching. Someone's always learning from what we do, so we have to consider what we do. Continuing on, it says, a morally sound, wise, and caring teacher can help 1, 10, or 10,000 students on their way to becoming morally sound, wise, and caring adults. Never underestimate the value you have. Never underestimate your worth. Never underestimate your potential. We can do whatever we want to do in life, and we can be whatever we want to be in life. But without an environment or an atmosphere or society that is doing things in a morally sound way, it won't last forever. But we can create a morally sound society to where we can make all of these things beneficial, and we can see the benefits of our work. And putting forth this effort into character education, you'll never fail and you'll never go wrong. You'll never regret it. He goes on to say, reading the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program to any student will mean a lot. Influencing the students with the personal determination to leave the classroom with the wisdom and knowledge found in these books will mean everything in a student's life. When a student leaves the classroom, when your children leave the house, you can't go with them everywhere they go. The only thing that they can take with them is what we've taught them or what's been taught to us. As the author said, he still carries the memories of what his father and his teacher told him very young in his life, very early on in his life. When our children leave, when we're out from each other and you hope they make the right choice, well, you have to depend on what you've taught them, what we've taught them. And if we've taught them things that are beneficial in knowledge, how to make sound decisions, that's what the author is trying to get across to us. If we put forth the effort and we practice it, practice it, then it will make a difference. You can't just say, don't do that. We have to put more of an effort into it. And that's what the Peaceful Solution is here for. He goes on to say that everyone needs direction. Underline that. And beside it, put this means you. Because this is speaking to every one of us. We all need direction. But the early teen years are those when children actually seek direction, primarily from those outside the home. Most children during these years feel that they know everything that their parents know. Therefore, they will listen more closely to those outside of the home, thinking they will learn things that their parents don't know. You know, sometimes when your parent says, don't touch the stove, it's hot, sometimes people want to touch the stove just to make sure that mom or dad knew what they were talking about. And if you touch the stove, you're going to get burnt. Well, in the best case scenario, you can treat your hand and recuperate. Well, mom and dad's not always there when someone says, try these drugs. They're great. They won't hurt. Or try this. It's not going to kill you. We have to realize as a society, and I think everyone could agree, if we look out into the direction our society is heading, whether you want to look at leadership from top down or from youth up to leadership, we're slipping as a society. And it's been on a downcline for many years. Not just recently, not just this year, not just last, but for many years. Well, the author's trying to stir into action the minds of everyone with these things that are so important. He goes on to say that most children, once again, during these years, to read this a second time, feel they know everything their parents know. You know, my father told me something when I was growing up, and it sounds kind of harsh, but he didn't mean it harsh when he told me. And I remember I was 20 years old, and he said, when you're 30, you'll realize how ignorant you were at 20. And whenever you get 40, you'll see how ignorant you were at 30. And whenever you get 50, you'll see just how foolish you were at 40. He goes, and one day you'll wise up and you'll look in the mirror and go, I just don't know everything. That's proven to be true. That's proven to be a very true thing in life. That we have to realize that it's nothing wrong if we don't know. It's only a negative thing when we don't ask to find out, well, what is the right and proper way that we can do this? And that's the important part, because asking in society is considered a weakness. But you'll learn through the Peaceful Solution, we will learn through the Peaceful Solution, asking is a strength. It's a positive character strength. To ask to make sure you do it right. Who wants to do it wrong twice? Wrong the first time's bad. Wrong the second time's even worse. You know, it's like driving around for 3 hours instead of asking for directions, right? I'm not stopping for anything. I've got this GPS in my hand and I'll find my way. I've done that before too, and 30 minutes later I had to make a phone call to find out how to get there. GPSs aren't reliable either. The author goes on to say that the stage is therefore set because the teacher is exalted in the minds as the one having the answer. And that's very important that we put that in the minds of our youth. And when I say put that in the minds of our youth, well, how do we do that? Well, for one, never talk down about an authority unless the authority is telling someone to do something that will hurt them. Parents never talk down the other parent in front of a child. Never talk down another adult in front of someone. If a student comes home and they got a bad grade, don't down the teacher. Inquire. Find out, why did they get a bad grade? Put forth some effort into seeing what's wrong. But always exalt teachers in the minds of everyone. When someone does something that's right, exalt that. When you watch the news, have you ever noticed the news, and I'm not condemning the news in any which way, shape, or form. They spend a lot of money to do what they do, and it's nice to be able to see what takes place in society. And you'll always see one article that is, this was the benefit to society. Look at a great thing that occurred. After 25 minutes of death and mayhem and murder, and it's heartbreaking to see what's in society. But you'll always get that one story to make things better. Well, the author is saying that we can make a change to where you could have 30 minutes of all positive things. There's no reason we always have to magnify the bad things and just briefly speak about the positive things. Things can be changed. And magnifying a teacher in the mind of a student is one way to do that. And that requires the teachers to be honest with themselves. Now it says, hence we dedicate these books to the teachers, the world leaders of tomorrow. The trust we place in you, that's teachers, that's everyone, is the ultimate sacrifice. We place our children's lives in your hands because we know you will influence them positively. Now that's speaking of teachers of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. We know that when a child is put into the hands of an instructor of the Peaceful Solution and the program is used exactly how it's been instructed to be used, it will be a benefit and a positive influence in their lives. The author goes on to say, we are confident that they will be the beneficiaries of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, notice, with your influence. And that's a letter from the author of the Peaceful Solution. He says, respectfully, Yisrael Hawkins, author and promoter of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Now, continuing on here into the introduction, it's very important when we cover these, pay close attention. Most people think that the introduction to a unit is something you can blow right through and get to chapter 1. Well, the Peaceful Solution is, imagine like a car, and you've never been in a car, and someone just gave you a car, and you want to know how to drive it. Well, the introduction and the information in the beginning of these books is kind of the introduction to the car. You can't just get in and take off and drive. You got to kind of know the rules to the car because it's a tool. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program is a tool. And it's a tool that has to be used in the right way to get the maximum benefit. It's not like have you ever looked for a screwdriver? You need a flathead screwdriver. And most people, instead of going to a toolbox, they'll go to the kitchen, pull out the drawer and get a knife and try to use that as a screwdriver. That's my tool. Well, it's not the right tool and it's not the right use. Well, this is the perfect tool when we learn how to use it in the proper way. So it goes on to say here, continuing on in the introduction, it says, the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program is pleased to introduce you to the most unique, effective, and practical character education program available today. You are holding a teaching tool that is guaranteed to minimize crime, violence, social disunity, moral degradation in the classroom, home, and community. And once again, it is 100% guaranteed as long as we use this tool as instructed by the Peaceful Solution. But it's also important, when you get the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, as we're talking about, and learning to teach it, it's a tool that you have to continue to use. You want to use it more than just coming to class. I went to class for an hour, now I put my book back up on the shelf. It's a tool like, imagine an exercise bike. Most people buy an exercise bike with great intentions of getting in shape. They ride it 1 or 2 times, and then it becomes a clothes rack from that point on. And that's the honest truth. I've got one like that myself. But you always look at it and go, one day I'm going to use that. Well, you even got to know how to use it properly. Well, these books are endless information on how to fix society, starting with ourselves. But we'll fix society. But we have to put them into action. Knowledge is power. Please never forget that. Keep reminding yourself, knowledge is power. Continuing on, it says, most people are involved in some kind of religion today. So when they express morality, they tend to be guided by what they have been taught by their churches, temples, synagogues, or mosques. This is something we must guard against in public schools because of the present laws concerning church and state. And the Peaceful Solution is a 501c3 nonprofit organization recognized by the United States of America, the federal government, and it is a program that is meant for classrooms. So we do ask that everyone, when teaching this program, do not include religious statements. Don't bring in religious statements. Keep religion separate from this program. Now, many people ask, is there any religion in the Peaceful Solution Character Education program? And we always answer the same thing. Where would everyone pretty much agree that the standard of morality starts? On a universal scale, you hear the Bible. So to say that it wouldn't have some kind of influence, well, that would be kind of false, because most people say that morality is influenced from the Bible. So if you want to look at it that way, then sure, there's parts here that would influence a person, but we're not here to teach religion. We've taught this program in many different countries. We've taught it in churches, in synagogues, in mosques, in temples. We've taught over 1 million students in the last 10 years alone. We've been in many schools, and there's never been a need to bring up religion, for the fact that morality is something everyone can agree upon. It doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Islamic. No one wants to be stolen from. No one wants their loved ones to be murdered. No one wants harm to come upon their family, those they care about. But as society, we tend to pick up a newspaper and you can see the obituaries and you'll look to see if there's anybody that you know. And if you don't recognize anybody, it didn't mean anything to you. But the day you recognize somebody that's in the obituaries, it's like, oh, you start having memories of that person. Or if it's someone that your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, someone that was really close to you, it really affects you. Well, in reality, when something bad takes place in our society, it should be that effect that we feel when it really hurts down deep. That should be the effect that we have, and the determination where if you could have made a difference, what would you have done? Well, the Peaceful Solution is telling us that we can make a difference. What will we do? We can make a change in society. But every time we see something that's negative, we have to have a drive to, how could I fix that situation? How could I have made that a better situation? Well, first it starts with learning. And that's what the author is bringing out. It starts with learning this tool. He goes on to say that we ask that you be aware, once again, of the fact that these lessons are designed only for the purpose of developing the student's character. That's what it's used for. This is not a motivational kind of program that's there so you can go monetize something. Not there to make a lot of money. And we're not there to persuade somebody to sign up and we'll give you a new car if you can get 500 other people to sign up. No, it's not that either. It's only for developing a moral character, the student's character. We're the students too. And then we become teachers. But it's there for developing that character. We call it the building blocks of character. And if you can imagine building a house, you have to take one step at a time. And if you lay the foundation and then you put the roof on, it doesn't work very well. But you have to build it. And if you do it properly, it can withstand anything. But it's going to be tested. And when it's tested, sometimes a hurricane comes and something breaks on the house. And you go back and you fix it. You don't tear the house down. You fix what was weak and you make it stronger. And that's what the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program does for us. It teaches us that when something slipped in our character, we're still developing it. We need to make it stronger. That comes through education. Knowledge is power. You're going to hear that many times. Continuing on, and this is important for every teacher that is looking to become a certified teacher of the Peaceful Solution. These lessons teach proper, acceptable character education in a way that will penetrate and change the heart and mind of a student or adult. This program will produce the results in young people that society desires to see. Society wants these things, but society wants to look at education and character like most people look at an exercise bike. I really want to be in shape, but I don't want to do anything to get there. And that's pretty much how character education is. Everybody wants a safer society. Everybody wants a safer environment. Everybody wants a better place. You know, and you see that in society. When you speak to people in many different countries, everybody wants a safer place to live. And everybody thinks the other country is safer. In reality, we all need guidance. Every country on the face of this earth needs education and character education. Now, continuing on, it says, we have noticed that these lessons are more effective when the teacher encourages the practice of the principles of the lessons throughout the day as incidents arise between teacher and student or student and student. So the things that we're learning, put it into practice immediately. Every day, don't let it escape you. When we learn something, start using that and make that part of everyday life. And that will actually help us to develop the positive character that we're looking for. Please remember, continuing on, that your class will be an example simply because character education is introduced into the school curriculum. Now, keep in mind, this book that we're going through can be used in any environment, not just a school environment. It can be used in a family, a community center. It can be used in a church. It can be used anywhere to create a better, peaceful environment in character education. Continuing on, it says, teachers are the true leaders of the world. All teachers have the opportunity to make a great change in the character of their students. With the use of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, you are not only teaching, you are actually molding leaders who will use what you are instilling in them to bring about better living conditions in the world. Now, that's something that's very important, because think of your words and your students being clay. And your words are molding those students on how to make either positive decisions or negative decisions. Decisions that benefit society or decisions that tear them down. You know, you have to consider, you've always heard, if you want to make a difference, get out and vote. How did that work? Not too well right now, right? And I'm not saying one thing for either side, but obviously when everybody's split down the center, you have a 100% division. Well, the Peaceful Solution is saying, doesn't matter what your political affiliation is, these things can be implemented also. Peace and agreements can be made when we look for the benefit of everyone. So think about that. When molding someone, we're specifically speaking about positive character. He's continuing on, it says, we must not fail to build moral values in the students we are now teaching. This will not just reflect in the child, but the entire world around us. That is, your leadership will be reflected in the actions of the leaders you have taught and will teach. Now, continuing on with how to use this program, and this is probably the most important part that you'll see. Because the Peaceful Solution, as I said once again, is a very vast program, and the teachers, the parents, the author that put this together, they left no stone unturned. They exhausted every area that they could think of and find to help create better environments for everyone. But remember, we talked about this building, this development, this building blocks of character. Well, it says here, and we'll explain this a little more, this section of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program consists of 5 units that covers character, acceptance, self-control, respect, and responsibility. Now, underline this part because this is the most important part. Each unit is designed and formatted, notice, to gently lead the student from the basic concepts of character development to becoming a responsible citizen in society. Now, it's very important that we notice that there's an order in which these books are to be taught. And it's very important to make sure that we cover everything in these books in the order that it's instructed that they be taught also. And I'll give you an example to give you foresight. If you say you really like this character unit, but the self-control unit catches your eye, And you're like, I'm just going to skip over acceptance and go straight into self-control. When you get to page 4 of the self-control unit, it tells you, in the character unit you would have learned, and the character unit builds up to the acceptance unit. So on page 4 of the self-control unit, you're expected to know everything that was in the character unit and the acceptance unit, and everything in the self-control unit is building from that point forward. If you go from character to self-control, there's 211 pages of knowledge that reduces your power because you didn't hear that tree fall, so to speak. You didn't gather that. And that's something that's very important because these books build one lesson upon another, and that's even when going from one book to another. They build step by step. So notice once again, it is important that you, the teacher, work through these units in the order presented to attain maximum benefits. And that's what we want. We want the most benefits we can get out of this program. As you explore each unit, you will realize that the issues covered are very relevant to our young people. Take as much time as you can to explain the concepts, reiterate where and when possible, and solicit as much student participation as possible. And once we get into the lesson plans, you're going to have a lot of feedback coming forth from students, and even those of you watching on the internet, you're more than welcome to give feedback. You're more than welcome to email questions in. You can call them in. We'll be more than glad to assist you in helping you understand what's being brought and give you the sense of direction with this program. Now, the teacher's manual is comprised of 7 lesson plans, each followed by the corresponding lesson. These lessons, chapters, are duplicated in the student's handbook. And it's really important to know, if you're a teacher and you're used to teaching lesson plans, this is the easiest tool you will ever use. The book is lesson plan ready. You don't have to get to curricula and go, well, what did they mean? It's already there. It's self-explanatory. If we just follow the procedures as they're given, we will get the maximum benefits. So any parent, anybody that's got a community center, anyone that's looking to use this program, all you have to do is be able to read and implement and follow instructions. If you can do those very basic things of reading and following the instructions given, you will get the maximum benefit of this program. Just don't change anything. Just imagine that if you get into this program, and we'll call it a car, and you decide, well, I don't agree with that. I think this makes more sense. Well, imagine one day you get in your car and somebody decided to make the D for reverse and the R for drive. That's exactly the direction you'll be going. Because when you think you're moving forward, you're going to be going backwards. Because the maximum benefits was created and laid out through much detail, much painstaking effort by people who really, really cared. And it was put through many tests and trials to make sure that these things would work. And it's proven to be a very successful plan. So when you take it, remember how we talked about how children think that they know more than their parents? Whenever you become a teacher of the Peaceful Solution, don't take the book and go, nah, this works better. It doesn't. It's been tested and tried. Trust the program. Trust it and put it to work in your life, and you'll see. Now, the purpose and objective. Now, you'll find these at the very top of each lesson plan, the beginning of each lesson plan, the purpose and objective. It is your evaluation tool for what or how much the student should learn from the lesson taught. Most of our objectives are measured in behavioral changes. That's very important. That's how we measure the success that we're achieving by getting this information across over to the students or even to ourselves. Behavioral changes. Please watch for these changes as your indicator of which concept might need reinforcement. So it's kind of like that when you have that exercise bike and you ride it one time and you go weigh immediately to see if you lost any weight, and then you go ride it again in 6 months and you go back to see if you lost any weight. Well, this program, when you're studying and going through the lesson plans and the information we're learning, and remember, we're supposed to implement that on a daily basis, well, we need to sit back and really examine ourselves. Look at ourselves, at our decision making. And even if you sit at home at night and look into a mirror, or you take a log, write down a log of, these are the things I did better. These are the things I improved on. Anybody can sit down and write a list about how bad of a person they are, But if you write down something you did wrong, write down beside of it what you're doing to make it right. What have you learned to improve on it? So don't just make a list of everything you do that's wrong without putting down something that this was wrong. Now this is how I can make it right. This is what I have learned, so I will not make the same mistake or bad choice again. Now going into procedures. These steps outlined in the procedures are for flow and continuity. We ask that you read the procedures prior to the presentation in order to guide the students more effectively. So as a teacher, you're going to want to go over this before you go into your class. Be mindful of what's coming up. Try to become familiar with all of the steps and the main ideas involved. Ask questions periodically to be sure your students understand what is being presented. If your objective is not adequately met, repeat it, or use the enrichment activities found in the handbook section of your manual to increase understanding of the lesson. And remember, your objective, that's found in the very top of the lesson plan, whether it be the first, second, third, fourth lesson plan. Purpose and objectives are the very first thing underneath those lesson plans at the beginning. Now, enrichment activities, they're also great for reinforcing the concepts that are taught. Now, continuing on with the Student's Handbook. The Student's Handbook is a replica of your manual, except the Student's Handbook has the answers in the back. So be mindful if you're working with your students, don't let them turn over to the back of the book before you give them the test. They'll have all the answers there waiting for them. Encourage the students to read their handbooks before class so they can contribute to discussions or help in problem solving. One thing for everyone to be mindful of when you're teaching this program, and you can teach, it doesn't matter if you're teaching adults or if you're teaching children, you will be amazed at the feedback that come forth from your students. When you can have a classroom of 5 students or you can have 500. Everybody comes from a different view of life. Everybody comes from a different setting as far as a family. Everybody has a different aspect or a different view, a different eye that they're looking through things as. It's always important to encourage participation. Then that doesn't mean force, but encourage it, and you will be amazed at the things that come forth in classes. Things that even come forth from a child that are very impressive, and it also lets you know that, yeah, these things are working. We're getting this information across. It's really making a difference. But always encourage that, and you'll be amazed at the things you hear back. So once again, these activities, let's go back up to the top here with the Student's Handbook. It says the Student's Handbook is a replica of your manual, speaking of the teacher's manual, except the Student's Handbook has the answers in the back, and encourage the students to read the handbooks before class so they can contribute to the class discussion or help in problem solving. The activities are designed to help students apply the concepts taught in real-life situations. Encourage students to complete the activities. Now, the role of the teacher. As educators, it is extremely important that we understand the tremendous role we play in the lives of our students. Never underestimate the role that we play. Never think that, well, I wouldn't want my students to do this, but what they don't know don't hurt them. A governor found out eating in a restaurant after telling the whole state not to do it. It was a very embarrassing thing to do during a COVID outbreak. And even though he may feel bad about what he did, it's really embarrassing to get up in front of somebody and go, I know I told you all not to do it, and I did it. If we tell students it's a negative thing to do this, then we should strive our very best to not do it, to be an example to all of them. And then therefore, we can help teach even when we're not in a classroom setting, even if it's just walking down the street, driving down the road, walking through the grocery store. When they see you and they always see positive things, then you're teaching them that positive things are always beneficial. But the day they walk in the store and they see you slip the pack of gum in your pocket, what do you think a student would think of a teacher that they seen do that? Man, he just told us not to be stealing things, and he just stole a pack of gum. That puts forth confusion in the mind of a child. And think about what we're doing as teachers when we're saying, we just don't do it where anybody can see you. You can do it, just don't do it where anybody can see you. That's a slippage in society too. Whenever someone tells you you can do it, just don't tell nobody you did it. That's the slippage in society. Well, the role of the teacher, once again, it says, therefore, our participation in this program is essential to a success, and that's a 24-hour-7 thing. Review the concepts every time a situation arises and not just when the lesson is presented. So once again, every time a situation arises, we can implement these lessons, implement the concepts and review it to see how well, even as a teacher, we've done in implementing them. As significant influences in the lives of our students, we can lay the foundation to help them build strong moral character. There is a solution to the problems in today's society. There is a solution to the problems in today's society. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program has provided you with the solutions needed to make a difference through educating our children on the values and morals that they will need for a lifetime. But once again, remember, it will only work if it has been taught. So we're going to move along here to, this is called Unit 1, Character Introduction to the Unit. So this is the first message you as a teacher, when you're setting your mind to teach your students, and we'll build into these lesson plans as we go, the unit, when you get to the beginning of every unit in a teacher's manual, you're always going to have the introduction to the unit, and also you'll have a note to the teacher. Well, our introduction to the unit, that's in the front of every book. And then we'll get to the note to the teacher that's in front of every chapter. It sets the mind and it kind of sets the tone for the class. So continuing on here on LP 1A, and this is only in the teacher's unit, and LP stands for lesson plan, and 1A, of course, is the page number for the lesson plan. Now it says we are all unique, multifaceted individuals with many experiences, interactions, and values that shape us into who we are. Now, multifaceted, that means we're someone with many different features or perspectives. We all have those. And values can be taken differently from one person to the next. Where you value your jacket or you value your car, someone else may not value that as much. Well, the Peaceful Solution teaches everyone to value everything. Even if it's not yours, value it. It teaches us to respect other people's belongings by doing such a thing. Well, even as adults, it says, we are constantly finding out new things about ourselves, our abilities, and our character. We currently live in a fast-paced, highly advanced technological society that literally bombards our children with many negative influences. Think about next time you're driving down the road, have your children do this. Count how many billboards that they see. Count how many billboards they see. And as a parent, try to recognize that I can't control a thing that's on those billboards that they're seeing. They're influencing our children. All we can do is teach them how to process the information they're seeing. It's almost impossible if you're driving down the road where billboards are present or other information, it's almost impossible to take it out of their mind what they've seen when going down the road. But what you do have control over is how their mind processes what they've seen. And that's what this program does. It helps them, no matter what they see or what they hear, it helps them process it. And it says, peers, the internet, movies, and songs all have the potential to shape the outcomes of their lives. When you think about how much technology has changed, myself and some teachers, it's before COVID, so it's been about a year now. When I was in high school, no one had a cell phone. When I was in my early 20s, not many people had a cell phone. We went into an elementary school and taught third graders, and every third grader had a cell phone. And almost all of them had internet on their cell phones. Now, when you think about a child that may be 8 years old, they have a cell phone with internet and no parental guidance. They've got the world at their fingertips. There's nothing they can't see. There's nothing they can't read. Well, without that guidance, what will become of them? Well, those are the dangers the Peaceful Solution is trying to make everyone aware of. Everything needs guidance. Everything needs education concerning the dangers. So continuing on, it says, just as our many experiences have shaped our characters and personalities, so too are they shaping the character and personalities of our children. So be mindful. What we allow into our children's mind is very important. If we can guard those things, we need to guard them. You wouldn't want your child to experiment with something and take their life. You can read every day on the internet as a parent where a child loses its life to something that was very unnecessary, very uncalled for. Continuing on, it says, and just what kind of person are they being shaped into? Think about that if you're a parent. Right now, if you look at your children, how well are you doing as a parent shaping your children? If you're a teacher in a public school, how well are you doing shaping your students into what they're supposed to be? And I know most teachers will say, it's not my job. That should have been done when they got here. But it's been left in their hands. So examine ourselves. How are we doing? Well, as educators and role models, these are questions that we must consider if we desire to stop the violence and risk-taking behaviors that are destroying the lives of children even before they've reached adulthood. If you were to poll students what they want for their futures, none of them would say that they wanted to be the victims of a school shooting or to contract HIV or a host of other sexually transmitted diseases that cripple or kill. On the contrary, they would say that they have hopes and dreams to pursue the careers of their choice, to start families of their own, or to succeed in a healthy, joyous life. It is our responsibility as educators, parents, role models, to give our children the skills and knowledge, that power. It's our responsibility to resist negative influences and to attain a positive moral character to succeed in life. Let us begin to teach our children the lessons that will guide them for a lifetime. This can be accomplished by giving them a sound moral foundation through character education. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program was designed to teach children and adults the importance of having a positive moral character. They will learn how character is developed and how it can be applied to improve in every aspect of life. Now, this program is presented in a clear, easy-to-read format that the 11 to 13-year-old will identify and connect with. The topics in it are kind of given on that age level, but anyone can connect with them. The first unit introduces students to what character is and how it compares to personality. Considering the problems that arise from mistaking a pleasant personality for a positive character, is imperative that we teach children to differentiate between the two. In addition to this, they will explore the role of character in producing a dysfunctional or healthy family. Numerous studies indicate that children who are abused grow up to be abusers themselves. The violence and hate that result from physical, sexual, emotional abuse are passed on from one generation to the next. This is our opportunity to teach children how to break the cycle of abuse so the next generation can be healthy in both mind and body. Now, that requires us to take action. Now, other issues that will be presented in this unit are how to identify and acquire positive values, the importance of distinguishing between positive and negative influences, how to develop positive leadership skills, how choices that are either positive or negative can ripple outward and affect others, the benefits of a positive character in achieving a successful future and satisfying lifestyle without the everyday problems we see around us. Now, as teachers and educators, we have a great responsibility in preparing today's children for tomorrow's world. By learning why a positive character is important, they can avoid making choices that will negatively affect them for the rest of their lives. Who they will become and what they deem important depend largely upon what they are taught today. It is the goal of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program to teach children to develop a positive moral character and to build a better world one person at a time. So we're going to stop at that point, and on our next class, which will be it will be Sunday, starting 5:30 to 6:30 for those of you on Facebook. For many people attending here, 5:30 to 6:30. We'll continue off, and we'll begin getting into the book. And when we get into this section of the book, we'll have a lot of interaction with student and teacher participation. So please come ready, read a little bit into the lesson, get your mind set, and we will start and get ready for covering more than meets the eye. Thank you once again for joining us.